Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good. So what you just did there with that line is already really good. Now, think about, so we get to the G, where are we going? Like, what's your next destination after that?
Well, the D, the G, and the F are just kind of filler to get to the E flat.
Exactly, exactly. So can we hear that destination then? So one, try that.
Whoops.
Good, good. That's already better. One thing that might help, especially when you have this little wraparound thing where you have this, is if you let your arm kind of come around it. You see how the notes are kind of like making this kind of loop here?
Mm-hmm.
I would just let your arm follow the shape of the notes. So kind of making like a half circle going counterclockwise is what I would think of. Not something, you know, crazy and dramatic, but it's just a thing of your arm is following the shape of your note. So,
Okay.
yes, right. Good. Now, can you do that and keep your wrist lower? Your wrist is tending to ride up a little bit. Yes, good. Yes, there you go. That's good.
Okay.
Good. Right. Yeah, so now you're getting the idea, right? We have these little, it's kind of like building blocks, right? You have one note that you start on, and then you have a bunch of filler notes, and you go to the next place, the next place. So you're starting to get the hang of that now. Let's try putting together the first 4 measures now. And think about those building blocks of always knowing which note you're going to. And in this case, it's almost always going to the long note. And then think about letting your arm follow the shape of the notes without letting your wrist ride too high.
Okay. Play both hands together.
Let's just do right hand for now because I really like your left hand. Good, that's already better. The only thing I'm going to change is I think you can give the longer notes a little bit more juice because juice is in like more sound.
Yeah.
Because they're longer, you need more sound to help them sustain. So, but I like your filler notes. Your filler notes are great. So I'm just looking at here and then less on this next note. Less. Then you can put a little bit more on this. Good. Yeah, exactly. How does that feel?
It feels better. I think the G in the second measure and not the long E flat, but the next one you play, it's hard to not make those too loud.
Yes, right. So that's going to be a matter of 2 things. Number one, it's going to be listening. And how I think about it is I think of whenever you're trying to tuck a note into the sound of the note that came before it, I think of the word undercut. So in terms of volume, you're thinking like coming in under the note that you just played. And so you're listening to the decay of the first note. That's the first thing. It's like you're listening to how that first note is decaying. And then the other thing that's going to help is it's a thing, I think, of physical coordination. And so I'm kind of coming down and around as I play those notes. So I'm not coming down on the next note because down is going to give you more sound. I'm playing this note, the long note down, and then I'm coming down with my wrist and coming around so that I can blend the notes together. Yeah. Good. Play the long G and then do the rest. Yeah, that's better. Right. So just remember that anytime you want to do that, where you want to tuck a note under the sound of the first note that you played, you really want to avoid any kind of attack where you're coming down into the keys. You need to think coming more like around, kind of horizontally rather than vertically. And that'll help with what your ear is wanting to do. It's a thing of coordinating physically with what your ear wants, right? If you want a horizontal line, then think horizontal movements.
Right.
Yeah. Does that help with that?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so let's move on now to the next measure where your left hand takes over the melody. And this is going to be the exact same principles that we've talked about. So think about what we've already talked about, and then I'm going to let you try the next couple of measures with your left hand and just see what you think.
Okay.
Good. Yes, that's already so much better. Before I was kind of getting chops like, but you smoothed it out now, which is really nice. You're going to the long notes and you're not letting any of the other notes bump. The only thing I think you can maybe think about is working on a little bit more legato, and that's going to give you that final level of smoothness that I think your ear wants. Let's see. So it's like letting your fingers overlap just a little bit, not to the point that we're starting to hear the sounds blend together, but I'm not using like detached finger work. Like that's very clean and it's not totally legato. I'm just letting my fingers overlap just a little bit, like transferring the weight of each of my arm into each finger. Give that a try. Nice. Good. Can you think about this? That was really, really good. I love how you're listening. Whenever you come down from like the black note to a white note, especially because you're coming down in terms of like the keys, black keys are higher than the white keys, and then you're coming down on a thumb, it's easy to bump it. So let's think physically about how to get around it. Think about coming more horizontally, so you're not going black down to white. Just think you're coming around it. You're making circles like this.
I looked away right as you were doing that with your hand. Do that again.
Yeah, okay. So I'm doing circles kind of like this. So I'm thinking like I'm coming down off the black key and around. So like at the piano, it looks like, so I'm playing this and around. That's better. Do this for a second. Just play the black key. So start on the E flat. And then think about pulling your arm away. Like think about going to your pinky.
Okay.
Yes. Right. So try adding in your thumb. That's better. Yeah. Right. Now the other thing is going to be I'm seeing you lift your wrist a little bit before you play your thumb. And when you whatever you lift has to come down. And so what it's turning into is like it's coming down on your thumb. So think about keeping your wrist down for that whole movement. So your wrist is sitting down. It's almost like you're stroking a cat. I'm like stroking my cat and coming around like this. So I'm keeping my wrist down and not letting it come up. Yes. Nice. Yeah. Good. Yes, that's much better. Do you hear the difference in the sound? Yeah. That's really, really lovely. Okay, so now that we kind of had the physical stuff put together, just think about the harmonies. I think I'd make the F sharp the loudest because it's more harmonically significant because we're going to 5. And
Mhm.
then the G can be a little bit less maybe than the F sharp, but you still want to give it a presence of sound, you know?
Right.
You want to just try that real quick? Nice. Beautiful. Yes, that's really,
That sounds
really lovely. Do you like that?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you try both hands together now from the beginning up until the first repeat and try to incorporate everything I just threw at you?
Okay.
Yes, that's really great. Your melody now has smoothed out really, really well, which is the main thing I wanted to accomplish. So that's wonderful. The only thing I want to tweak now is a thing with both hands, and it's just a balance issue. And we haven't talked much about balance
Yeah.
between the two hands yet. So let's talk about that for a sec.
I was just gonna ask you that.
Yeah, okay, great. So you're hearing it, which is awesome. It's only a matter of I want you to keep the same shape that you're making with the filler material. So at the beginning, filler material is the left hand. Keep that same shape. We're just going to do it on a smaller dynamic level.
Okay.
So this is going to be two things. First of all, you can start with more sound and tone in your right hand. If you want to come down on a note, the first note is the place to come down. Not in a harsh way, but just letting your wrist fall into the note and getting a good sound in your right hand. And then with your left hand, think almost like you're painting and you're brushing the keys. You're getting a wispy kind of sound. So when you put them together, you get. So see how in the left hand I have that shape that you're creating? It's just on a little bit of a smaller level.
Yeah.
Try that. Yes, that's already better. Do you like that?
Yeah, I do. It's just it's hard. I guess it's just something in my brain to think of doing two different dynamics with each hand.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, I know because you're probably not used to thinking about that kind of like balance when you're playing.
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's a new skill. Yeah. Let's try something for a second. Try it without pedal and just see what you think about that sound.
Okay.
Good. I think probably what you're going to want to do with pedal is find a balance between no pedal and not too much pedal. I think
Yeah.
probably before, and it's hard to tell, you're just going to have to use your discretion because I can't say for sure over Zoom. And pedaling is one of those things you always have to adjust to the instrument and the room you're in, and it changes, every time. But with this, I think you can use a little bit of pedal. Just you have to be careful, not too much. Like maybe you only put your foot down halfway instead of all the way down. Something like that. One thing I thought about with your left hand and helping it be more quiet. Think about it in terms of both of those beats. Think of them as just like one large gesture. So you're not thinking note, 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 note. You're just thinking big gesture. trying to think, what am I doing? So I'm kind of like thinking one circle there, and I'm not doing a big exaggerated circle because then that's not gonna let your fingers do what they need to. But I'm thinking of it as a whole circle. Mhm. Good. Good.
I wonder if I was trying to make that be too musical. Sounds weird, but I wonder if I was trying to make that be too musical and that made it sound uneven because now that we've balanced it more so that the right hand or the left hand when it comes in, so the actual melody can be the star, can be the melody. Now it's having to get, I'm phrasing this terribly, but I think I was trying to make the accompaniment be just as interesting as the melody instead of giving it the backseat.
Right. And it's one of those tricky things. I think you totally have the right musical concept. So I don't think you need to throw out the kind of phrasing and the swell that you have going on. I would keep that. It's just
Yeah, but I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. It's just recognizing the difference in roles, right? They both
Yeah.
play musical, but they have different roles. Right?
Yeah.
The star or left hand when he has the melody. The other thing still needs to have that musical content that you've created. It's just taking like a back seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's something you can continue to listen for and something just to work on throughout the week of you ideally just want a really sharp contrast between the two. And that's something the more you think about, the more you listen for it, you'll get it.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions about any of that so far?
No, I think I just need to practice it.
Yeah, I think you have a really good idea of what you're going for. So I'm not going to belabor the point because your ear is fantastic.